What's up, guys? This is Language Come Up, a channel where I come up and you do too. If you don't know me, my name is Mark, and today we're going to be talking about an interesting thing, the 40-hour, 7-day language challenge. Now, this is a challenge that I have with my buddy Seabolt from Seabolt Speaks, and there are two ways you can do it. So, I'm going to talk about how I did mine, and then John is going to talk about how he did his. All right, so before I do that, why don't I just talk about how it started? So, as some of you may know, I study Russian, and I've been studying Russian since January of last year. I told myself that if I studied Russian for a year and a half, then I would give myself a trip to go to Russia where I could travel and try to improve my language abilities there. I wanted to stay like a month. But of course, since we're living this year in such an apocalyptic way, that wasn't a possibility. So I came up with this idea to study my language full time as if it were my job, hence the 40 hours. But you have 7 days to do it as opposed to 5 or 6 or whatever. So the idea of the challenge is basically to live your life through the language and to do anything that you want just as if you're doing it in your normal life. So I read, I watched series, movies, I had speaking sessions practically every day. Um, I was really living my life in Russian. And the rules are very simple. Do whatever you want. Plan your week how you see best fits, right? But with my challenge, since it's a full time challenge, the idea is to do as many active hours as possible. So I think I did 30 minutes of passive 6 days a week, 30 minutes a day. And then I think the last day had like an hour and a half. But the idea is to really live your life through this language, and it's a it's a full on challenge. And um, Seabolt's is a bit more manageable if you've got some other things going on. So, as many of you know, I am an English teacher, so I'm speaking English like like a madman all through the week. And so I took a week's vacation just to be able to do this. And I, it's not to say that you don't need to listen to any English or whatever your native language is, but think of like if you were a native of the language that you're learning. You can have the chance to listen to some other languages, but of course, you want to hit your times, so you're going to be really focusing on your target language. All right, so some things to expect. All right, well, an interesting thing happened to me during this challenge. My mind, although being a beginner, my mind accepted that Russian was now my language of communication, my language of just whatever I was getting the input of, right? So even though that I was a beginner, and I would still say that I am a beginner, but just even a lower beginner at this point, my mind just said, okay, so Russian is somehow your language, the language that you're going to be dealing with, and that was pretty amazing. So if you want to do this challenge, make sure you have the time to do it, right? If not, then Seabolt's spin on it is definitely the way to go, right? And in the future, I may actually do his version of the challenge because I would actually need to set time aside to do mine again, right? So, one thing that I really recommend is that you have your materials already pre planned. You want to know what you're going to be doing every day, all right? So, have your materials pre planned, and you know, sometimes maybe you're not going to feel like doing everything to the T, but make sure you have um, just a wealth of resources that you can pull from. All right, so you know it. was a really amazing week for me. It's something that I recommend anybody to do. I would love to be able to do this, this challenge again very soon. I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but highly recommend it. All right, so if any of you guys have any questions, just please write in the comments. Now, my buddy John's going to speak about his way of doing things, and maybe this might be a better fit for you right now, but you'll be the judge.
What's up, everybody? This is Jonathan from Seabolt Speaks here on YouTube. Basically, I just wanted to give you my version of the 40-hour, 7-day language challenge. So Mark has talked about his. Basically, the way that I did it, because this is for if you're not on vacation or you're not, you don't have an opportunity. For example, I have a full-time job that I work 40 hours a week. I have a wife and a child, and this is the way that I made the challenge work for me. And that is basically saying that no more than 20 hours of my learning could come from passive listening. I know some people are up and down about passive listening. That's a whole topic for a different thing, but this is just to make it basically being around the language 40 hours in a week. So basically, as long as 20 hours came from active, the rest could be passive, but I would only really count 20 hours of passive. So basically, while I was at work, I would have playlists of, for example, I'm learning Japanese. I would have playlists of Japanese music or TV shows, specifically TV shows that I had already watched. That way it was already familiar to me, or YouTube videos or anything like that, and I would listen to those at work. And then after I got home, and then after my son went to bed, then I would start my study, whether it be immersing or studying subtitles or reading or Anki flashcards or whatever it may be. And then basically that's what I would do. I'd do 20 hours of, and it usually actually, I did this for about 7 or 8 weeks in a row, but it ended up being usually between 22 and 23 hours a week of active. And then once I hit 20 hours of passive, I kind of just stopped counting, but I was getting over 40 hours a week. And that's just a really quick and easy way to get it versus spending 40 hours of actively, intensively thinking about what you're doing. Like I said, there's ups and downs of people with passive and whether or not it's good or not. But again, my goal wasn't necessarily, basically it was to make it work for me and to be immersed in Japanese as much as possible. So yeah, that is my version of it. That is kind of the, I guess, the cheap man or the poor man's version of it. It's for busy people, man. I'm a busy person. That's what I've always talked about on my channel. People, I think, get a little irritated because it takes me a little bit longer to learn. But again, I have a full-time job. I have a wife and a child. Languages are just a hobby for, it's a passion, but it's a hobby for me. So hopefully my version, if you're a little bit more busy, can help you. And yeah, and you can honestly acclimate this kind of the way that you want to. That's just what I found worked for me. At least half of it had to be active. Like, I didn't want to have 10 hours of active study and 30 hours of passive. Like, I still wanted to push that envelope because at 20 to 21 hours, it's still 3 hours of active intensive study a day and then filling in the gaps with the rest. So yeah, I hope this helps, and yeah, thanks.
All right, so that's the challenge. And if you are not already, go check out Seabolt. He has a great channel. And I'm glad we can finally get this out there, because this has been rumbling around for quite some time. People always ask, what is this? How do you do it? Well, now we have a definitive version. So thank you. We'll see you next time. Like and subscribe, and stay on your come up.